What's up, Shacklz gang? This is Jaleel Shacklz, your advice guru. A lot of people have been hitting me up lately, including my girlfriend, off of something that they said was so stupid that Kanye said in an interview, which is if slavery could be a choice. Like, initially, yeah, that sounds freaking ridiculous, because obviously people didn't have choices, as they have rules and regulations and laws with slavery, and white people were just enslaving black people, and technically it couldn't be a choice. But I definitely wanted to see what was really going on behind scenes, because a lot of times people like to bandwagon, skip to the certain point in the interview, don't watch the whole 30 minutes because, one, they're being lazy, and two, they automatically assume what everybody else is saying is true. So I thought I'd go ahead and do a little review on it. I decided to go to the primary source and watch the whole 30-minute video. And I realized in that it gives the wrong interpretation that people are actually perceiving at this very moment. Like, yeah, with Taylor Swift and other people, yeah, that sounded crazy, sounded lunatic. A lot of people feel like once he lost his mother, he just went bonkers and nothing makes sense anymore. And this is the dumbest thing he could have ever said. And personally, I disagree with that. Here's the thing. When he was saying slavery could be a choice, he's talking about the mindset of the way society today is brought up. And he said about 400 years ago, the same way we're living then is the same way we're living now, technically speaking, because we're still trapped in this mindset based on society and what they taught you. And to me, that was freaking mind-blowing, especially when he brought up the quote by Harriet Tubman that he would free the slaves if only she knew that they knew they were slaves. See, that also says technically we could have stopped slavery a long time ago. And I know that enough slaves could have beat a bunch of the white people, technically speaking, but what they did was they got to the mentality, which is the reason why we weren't able to circum slavery at that time and day and age. They would actually use embarrassment. They would use all kinds of tactics. And one of the main tactics was getting the biggest dude in their slavery plantation, making a fool out of him, probably killing him. And the rest of the people were like, you know what? I don't want to be like him. And they just said, you know what, slavery, maybe if we hold out a bit, maybe it'll go away. And it didn't for several years until what we have today, which is that rightful freedom. See, the problem with the thought process of slavery and trying to improve yourself and things like that, what media has put out there since we were young, we tend to believe currently. Just like the history that was brought up, it wasn't until maybe I got into like middle school where they started teaching about slavery and white people, stuff like that. And at some point, I started feeling like, you know what, maybe white people kind of feel like a little different towards me. And they're secretly feeling some type of way, when in reality, that's all a misconception. I'm not saying that like everybody's perfect or white people are perfect or all of them are bad, because there's racism everywhere. And in that, he was pretty much saying to be free-spirited and free your mind of the negligence that is brought on by society and be who you are truly meant to be. Like a lot of times, if you decide that you want to go and venture out in the world and do your own thing, there's going to be a lot of haters out there and telling you can't do it, whether that's being a dancer, whether that's being a philanthropist, that's whether it's working at a doctor's office, whatever it is. A lot of times with society, especially nowadays with the baby boomers and everything, it's like, oh yeah, music is something that's not tangible. It's a high marketing strategy. You may not get into it. You know, it is better off if you go to college and you get an education and you get a job, which is basically training you in another way to be a slave, because it doesn't teach you how to form your mentality to be greater than the person that you currently are. It doesn't teach you how to create something that you're really trying to do, but better yet, work for a person that has already done the studies, the research, and methodology to actually acquire their dreams. And once they achieve their dreams, you're sitting here getting a degree to work at a place that is somebody else's idea, when in reality, you want to make that for yourself. And if you really think about it, being free-spirited is way better than trying to meet the customs and means of other people in society. Now, back to Kanye West with the whole not trap, but the hat about Donald Trump and making the world, just making America great again. I personally think that this is just my perception, based on the interview, is that he was talking about himself making America great again, not necessarily Trump. He's friends with Trump, yes. But from what I get from this, think about it this way. You know how there's a saying where you are the product of the closest 3 to 5 friends that you have? Like, basically, if they're lazy, you're more succumb to being lazy than actually, like, being successful. So you have to surround yourself with successful people so that you can be successful. Well, I don't know if you remember previously, he said he was going to run for president in 2020. And this is just my perception. He's probably hanging out with Trump so that he could figure things out in the presidency so that when he gets to that point of election, he can actually be elected to be president in 2020. I'm just saying, like, period. Sometimes you have to be friends with the enemy in order to figure out what's going on and how to get yourself in that same situation and get the same earnings, recognition, and everything else. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, we love the old Kanye. That dude is still the crazy Kanye we all know. He's still outspoken. It's just certain things that people take out and use against other people where they change the wording of everything. And that happens quite often, even in news media. You don't end up hearing the other side of the story. You see all this brutality, but then in some cases you end up seeing what they did beforehand to actually bring the negligence upon themselves. And it just brings chaos to the world. And that is my personal view on the if slavery were a choice. You can do anything that you set your mind to. You can make the greatest person of yourself. You just have to be willing and able to set aside the thoughts and the negativity around you and focus on the positive aspects on it and continue trying no matter if you fail. The part of success is sucking, so you learn from it to get success. This is Jaleel Shacklz, your advice guru. Doices. And have a great day.